saying that this is Paul Trynka, who has written a fantastic book called Starman about David Bowie, and he's agreed very kindly to talk to us tonight.
You're very welcome.
So, thanks very much for that. My name's Ziba and I'm just going to explore this whole phenomenon, this Bowie phenomenon. I have to admit, I'm a bit of a fraud. I was one of the only people in this room who really hasn't been, a tremendous fan of Bowie all these years. But in his death, he's become something to me that he wasn't during his lifetime. I don't know why that happened. Maybe it's a kind of, collective hysteria. I don't know. But I also think there might be more to it than that.
At its very most basic, he's taken something in human life that we all have to contend with and made art out of it. That's pretty unusual. So if that turns people onto him, then that's entirely a good thing, and I'm sure that's part of his master plan, and he'd be glad to hear it.
Well, what I've really found, fascinating about all this is that he's clearly interested in, like everyone else, we're all punters on this planet. He doesn't know where he comes from, and he doesn't know where he's going. And that's what I found so interesting about, his death, and why I really took this final, Lazarus, Black Star, I really listened to it, whereas the rest of his music, I just wasn't so interested, because for me, this was metaphysics happening here. So I was fascinated by that, because I now see him as not just an artist, I see him really as one of us.
Okay, yeah, human. Yeah, whereas before he was alien.
Just alien and another
I mean, that's a really interesting point, because that is the point of Lazarus. It is about the nature of otherness and then the nature of humanity at the same time. And I think that's the same with the play as well, where sometimes he's talking about an alien that's landed on Earth. Sometimes, the alien is trying to escape back to his planet. And yet, in another sense, this is definitely about a human who's going somewhere else. And there's a lot of sadness there, but I think there's also a bit of relish, actually, for the big adventure.
Exactly,
So,
the big adventure.
And that's a pretty good kind of leitmotif to end on, to think of this as one more phase and one more reality that you've got to deal with. And the last adventure.
Yeah, it's a new reality, that's right. And that's what I found so interesting about this. It was beyond stardom. It was something much more than that. But, there were a number of themes which you explored for everyone else who was in the room who missed all that. Maybe you could just go over a few of those points, because I think people who weren't terribly interested. For example, the moment you heard, what was that moment for you? The moment you heard he died?
Well, I heard about 6:45 on the Monday morning, and my wife called from the bathroom. She was listening to the Today programme. And what surprised me is how I wasn't surprised. I knew everything kind of made sense straight away.
Right.
And it sounds a little bit kind of self-complacent to say that, but I think I did realise. I mean, I'd known the rumours of illness over the years, and I didn't think, oh my God, he's died just after putting out that album. I thought, oh my God, he's put out that album because he knows he's about to die. And so I felt terrible sadness for his daughter, but I also felt a kind of weird excitement and exultation, thinking, what a great work of art this was.
Right. Fantastic. And what about for you as his biographer? Does that encapsulate him? Is there nothing more? Do you feel that there's more for you to write about on this? Or?
Well, I would, once you've kind of lived through a book, you feel that you've said what you can say, and I'm often reluctant to return, but what was spooky is that the means of his magnificent disappearing act, this Houdini mechanism, that was what the whole theme of the last part of the book was.
Right.
So I will revisit it in the light of that theme, and I think there'll be a kind of a coda at the end. And yeah, I mean, I feel a weird conflict of emotions because I'm kind of happy that it kind of went that way and sort of fitted in with what I thought and what people had told me, and then I'm sort of obviously sad because it means the loss of this man. And I don't actually, I don't feel so much the grief of a fan. I just feel for his child who's 15, and I thought the kind of last persona of David Bowie or David Jones was as a dad, you know, taking Lexi to school, and I'm very sad, awfully sad that that's at an end, because his daughter's the same age as my son, and yet in another sense, you know, I think he would have spoken to her about it, and this is life. We have to deal, you know, the cards you have to use the cards we've been given, and he played them masterfully, didn't he?
So in the end, he speaks to you as a human being, as a father. That's how you see him.
Well, I think that's part of it, but I think
you agree.
I think it's more about his exploration of what a human being is, because remember as well, you know, he's talking as a human, and there's not perhaps that much artifice, yet he's turned it into not just art, but he's turned it to showbiz as well, you know, so that's different as well, isn't it? It's you know, being human is small scale, and this is quite large scale. It's kind of quite grandiose in a way, so and I think that is the nature of David Bowie. He is very human, but I think it's a quote from Jeff Marsh, who's the curator of the V&A. You know, he was talking about something that, you know, I think it was the next day, and he said, well, is it great art or is it great marketing? Well, the answer with David Bowie is, you know, it can be both. And this was that to that extent as well. You know, he's bound up with that kind of glamour. He wanted this magnificent disappearance, and so I would think he'd felt, you know, shock and all the sadness everybody does, you know, when you know you're on this kind of last voyage. But I suspect there's a bit of artistic relish there for what's happening as well, or if nothing else, just let's get to business and let's do it, you know. He'd always been a craftsman, and that's often forgotten because they think of him as just
a plunge into death.
Well, a plunge into work, isn't it? Because when we work and we're busy, then we're at our most human. And I think he'd always been a very hard worker and a great craftsman, and I'm sure that gave him not solace, but I'm sure it gave him satisfaction.
You also said that he'd done a fair bit of experimentation at one point, although you thought perhaps not as deeply as some might have suggested, with Kabbalah and the occult.
Oh, well, actually, when I was talking about the experimentation, I was referring principally to him being a druggie, to being a cocaine addict, which is a story people really like to talk about. And that was, I think that was a kind of a key part of his life at the time, but I don't think it was so overwhelming as people. I think a part of him was still in control, you know, his super ego or whatever it was keeping an eye on it all, and he was calibrating himself. So I think that's true. And I think things like the Kabbalah were just all these explorations, which are partly down to his natural inquisitiveness anyway, and then partly was just, you know, quite a lot of it was cocaine psychosis, so I think he was trying to work things out and wasn't capable of working them out as well.
So ultimately, who have we lost? If we lost Bowie, we've lost David Jones, we've lost, I mean, did he die?
Have we lost
Have
we lost Bowie? You see, I don't think of this as it's like
David
people
Jones.
say, don't think of it as a life ended, think of it as a life completed. And, you know, to end a life with this beautiful coda at the end, you know, it gives it shape, like, you know, any great art or work of music will have shape. And so, yeah, don't go off gently into that good night. He went off and he did that work of art, and I think people will think of his art, his music in a different way. I think he will be, or is now indisputably in the pantheon, you know, so I think he wanted to be, you know, he was Elvis from Bromley. He's on a level with Elvis now, you know. Elvis was the first. It's kind of quite hard to become the first, but his, you know, he's achieved something of quite, that is unparalleled. And again, I don't want to sound ghoulish.
And was he aware of it though? Was he aware of that? At the very end, was he aware of what he'd achieved, or was he still feeling uneasy about
I'm sure he was, because I think there was always a sense of mission. When he spoke to the people like Trevor Boulder, all the guys from the Spiders days, he knew, he just planned it all out and said, you know, we're going to do A, we're going to do B, we're going to do C, and then this will happen. So nobody ever knows whether life's going to go according to plan, or even whether death will go according to plan. But I think he had mapped it out, and I think he knew that it was meaningful and worthwhile, and it fitted with what he'd done before, you know. So whilst it's terribly sad for the family, I think there would have been a kind of a relish for, yeah, this is the last one, and yeah, I'm going to go somewhere new here. I could do the same old, or I could try something completely different from my last work, and he did it. And you know, well done, Mr. Jones.
Well, all we can say is thank you very, very much for this.
You're very welcome.
And also, David Bowie, rest in peace, or in joy. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's really nice.
You're
Thank you.